With a number of new models already introduced or soon to be introduced, the 1995 model year may turn out to be the busiest ever for Chrysler. And MasterTech has stayed right on top of things with programs on the Neon, the redesigned Talon, Cirrus Stratus, and Sebring Avenger. Welcome to MasterTech. By this time, you probably have a pretty good idea of all the new body styles and powertrain combinations that go along with them. Well, in addition to the number of new models making their debut, changes have occurred in the rest of the 1995 model lineup. In this program, we're going to help you keep track of those changes, including those which have been made to the Neon since its introduction. Let's begin with a look at engine and engine system changes. If you've watched the Talon or Sebring Avenger MasterTechs, you're probably aware of Chrysler's new dual overhead cam 2-liter engine. It's based on the single overhead cam engine introduced on Neon. Beginning in November, the Neon will also be available with the dual overhead cam engine. The new Neon engine has a compression ratio of 9.6 to 1 and develops 148 horsepower at 6,800 RPM and 130 pound-feet of torque at 5,200 RPM. The main difference between the dual overhead cam engine used on Talon and Sebring Avenger and the one used on Neon is the orientation of the intake and exhaust manifolds. On the Neon, the intake manifold is mounted toward the front of the car and the exhaust manifold toward the rear of the car. As you might expect, the difference in orientation has led to some differences in components. For example, the intake and exhaust manifolds are unique to the Neon engine, as are the camshafts, cylinder head, and cylinder head cover. The Neon dual and single overhead cam engines do share some components that are not found on the Talon or Sebring Avenger engine. These include the oil pan and the radiator cap, which is the vented type. A list of component differences between the single overhead cam engine and the two types of dual overhead cam engines is located in this month's reference book. Refer to it, as well as to the Neon, Talon, and Sebring Avenger programs for additional information. A running change in the pistons used in Neon single overhead cam engines simplifies engine service. On engines with part numbers of 466, 7965 cast into the piston skirt, piston and connecting rod assemblies can be replaced individually. The piston change took place beginning with engines built in early to late February 1994. With the piston used previously, all 4 piston and connecting rod assemblies were replaced as a set. The same service piston is used to replace both the piston used previously and the new piston. Its part number is 477 3975. To better meet OBD2 requirements, the way in which onboard diagnostics are run has also changed on Neon. These include changes to the conditions under which the purge flow monitor operates, changes in the effects of purge operation on the fuel system monitor, and enhanced diagnostics during low fuel operation. The 3.5-liter engine used on LH has undergone extensive revisions for 1995. Changes to the pistons are aimed at reducing hydrocarbon emissions. Instead of a flat crown, the pistons used in the 3.5-liter engine now have a large chamfer. This chamfer and a reduced top land height provide the combustion flame front with better access to the fuel-air mixture. Top piston rings have also been revised. The rings are now made of steel. They are thinner and rounded to promote more thorough combustion. The top ring end gap has also changed. Piston skirts have also changed. They now have a graphite-type anti-stick coating. Piston changes, along with changes to the cylinder head, have resulted in a lower compression ratio, 9.6 to 1. The cylinder head valve seats are now flush with the combustion chamber, and the intake valve seat is narrower. Both intake and exhaust valves are new. The intake because of the narrower valve seat, and the exhaust because a new material is being used. The timing and water pump drive on the 3.5 has also undergone extensive changes. To help the timing belt transfer heat, The plastic tensioner pulley is being replaced with a steel version. A new, larger water pump pulley provides a lower pump speed. This results in quicker warm-up and reduced emissions. As a result of this change, a longer belt is used. Intake and exhaust manifolds have also been revised for 1995. The upper intake has been revised to improve flow. The exhaust manifolds are made of different material for 1995. The thin wall design results in weight reduction and improved catalytic converter operation during warm-up. Speaking of converters, the close-coupled converters used with the 3.5-liter are now larger. Finally, the throttle and speed control cams have changed to a semi-progressive design. The clearance used during the throttle body synchronization adjustment has also changed. You'll now need to insert a 2/1000-inch feeler gauge between the idle speed screw and throttle lever on the right throttle body. Previously, a 4/1000-inch feeler gauge was called for. The 5.2-liter engine and its related systems have also undergone a few changes for 1995. A computer-designed camshaft provides more low end and higher peak torque. It also reduces valve train noise. Due to emissions requirements, the new camshaft is not backward compatible with earlier 5.2-liter engines. If you're familiar with recent changes in Chrysler fuel systems, you're probably aware of the switch to returnless fuel supply systems. Well, for 1995, the use of the returnless fuel supply system has been expanded to include all engines on Grand Cherokee and Ram van and wagon. In addition to the fuel pump module, the fuel rail has also changed on these vehicles. The fuel supply system on the Wrangler has also undergone a change. A new fuel pump module gasket has been introduced, which will better resist the effects of torque on gasket sealing. This gasket must be replaced anytime the fuel pump module is removed from the tank. Also, when installing a new gasket, be sure to use a cross pattern to tighten the mounting screws to the specified torque. If you're familiar with Chrysler emission systems, you probably know that many vehicles use a duty cycle for the purge solenoid instead of simply switching it on or off. For 1995, the use of a duty cycle for the solenoid has been extended to Grand Cherokees with 4-liter engines sold in California. Accompanying this change is a larger evaporative canister. A few of the changes in engines for 1995 involve alternatively fueled vehicles. For one thing, compressed natural gas, or CNG versions of Ram pickup and Dakota will soon be available using the 5.2-liter engine. The use of CNG in Chrysler vehicles was covered in the May 1993 MasterTech, and the system on Ram pickup and Dakota is similar. One big difference on these vehicles is that the natural gas is stored in a single large container in the truck bed instead of several smaller containers underneath. 2 pressure relief valves are used on the single container, one at each end. The CNG vehicles fall into the low emissions vehicle category of the California Air Resources Board. Another Chrysler vehicle is aimed at meeting the requirements for the transitional low emissions vehicle category. A special version of the 1995 Neon will use a 2-liter engine with revised pistons and head gasket and a revised powertrain control module. Those are the main changes to engines for 1995. For more detailed information about such areas as the 3.5-liter engine or CNG vehicles, check out the training courses in the latest course selection guide. Now let's try a review question to check your knowledge. A piston and connecting rod on a Neon engine with a build date of June 1st, 1994 must be replaced. Do you need to replace all the other piston and connecting rod assemblies? Yes or no? The answer is no. Piston and connecting rod assemblies with a part number of 466-7965 can be replaced individually. Pistons used previously had to be replaced in sets of 4. Changes have been made recently to almost all Chrysler automatic transaxles and transmissions. Some are running changes which have been carried over to 1995 models. Others begin with the 1995 model year. Let's start with some of the changes to the Transaxles. The angle of the transfer gears was revised on the 31TH in 1994 as a running change. A number of other parts were revised as well to accommodate this change. Additional changes were made to the 31TH used on the Neon. These include the differential assembly and front clutch and kickdown band. Components in the 42LE and 41TE have also changed. The changes, which affect both Transaxles, are listed in this month's reference book. In addition, on the 41TE, the differential cover has been revised. On the 42LE, the chain drive system now uses 2 chains. The vent tube and wiring harness have also been revised. On rear-wheel drive automatics, the number of turns you back off the adjusting screws for front and rear bands may be different than what you're used to. Some of the specifications were revised for the 1994 model year, and others were revised more recently. These revised adjustment specifications are listed in this month's reference book. 1994 saw a number of running changes to rear-wheel drive automatics, which are carried over to 1995. These include the addition of a thrust washer between the reverse drum and reverse drum support hub snap ring on 36RH, 46RH, and 47RH transmissions. There have also been pump intake revisions on 31RH, 32RH, 41RH, 42RH, and 42RE transmissions. These and other running changes to rear-wheel drive transmissions may affect parts applications, so be sure to check part numbers during service. Our final change on automatics concerns the overdrive unit on the 47RH. To reduce gear noise, the unit now uses helical gears instead of spur gears. Manual transmissions and Transaxles have seen very few changes for 1995. For one thing, the dual overhead cam Neon engine mentioned earlier will be available with a close ratio version of the A578 manual Transaxle. The NV3500 transmission, used on some Ram pickups and Dakotas, has a new shift lever assembly. The new assembly is serviced as a unit. A clutch interlock switch has also been added to the Dakota and the Jeep Grand Cherokee. The switch prevents the engine from starting when the clutch pedal is not depressed. Finally, in the area of driveline, Jeep Grand Cherokee four-wheel drive models with an NV249 transfer case get a new front propeller shaft for 1995. The new shaft uses a constant velocity joint in place of the universal joint used previously. Propeller shaft length is preset at the factory. However, replacement shafts must be adjusted so that there is 5.83 inches between the top of the CV boot and the joint cup. When the distance is correct, tighten the adjusting nut to 85 foot-pounds. Now, before we shift to another area, let's check your knowledge of Transaxle changes for 1995. You'll need to use the MasterTech reference book to answer this question. Which of the following is one of the changes made to both the 42LE and 41TE Transaxles? A. Band adjustment specifications. B. Transfer gears. Or C. Input clutch hub. The answer is C. Input clutch hub. For a list of the 41TE and 42LE changes, see this month's reference book. The big news in brakes for 1995 is the use of a new anti-lock brake system, Tevis Mark IV-G. The system is available on LH vehicles which do not have traction control, as well as on all Jeep vehicles. On the Jeep Grand Cherokee, ABS is now standard equipment. LH vehicles with traction control still use the Mark IV system. The Mark IV-G system is very similar to the Mark IV system you may be familiar with. However, there are a few differences you need to be aware of. For one thing, the Mark IV-G system does not use the pedal travel sensor, which is located on the vacuum brake booster on Mark IV systems. The hydraulic control unit, or HCU, has changed as well.
There is no longer an exterior fluid reservoir on the HCU. Now, though, there are 2 fluid accumulators inside the HCU. As with Mark IV ABS, LH vehicles use a 4-channel system, with each individual wheel brake controlled separately. Jeep vehicles use a 3-channel system. Each front brake is controlled separately, and the rear brakes are controlled together. The location of the anti-lock brake controllers vary according to vehicle. This month's reference book contains a chart of controller locations. And as with the Mark IV system, you can use the scan tool for diagnosis. In other brake developments for 1995, Kelsey Hayes ABS is now available on B350 Ram vans and on 3500 Ram pickups. Now let's check your knowledge of anti-lock brake controller locations. You'll need to see the chart in this month's reference book to answer the question. On Wranglers with Tevis Mark IV G ABS, where is the anti-lock brake controller located? A, behind the glove box. B, on the HCU. Or C, behind the IP to the right of the steering column. The answer is A, behind the glove box.
Last December, we introduced you to the new Neon, including its suspension and steering systems. You may recall from the program that Neon has 3 suspension packages: ride-tuned or standard, touring, and sport. Since that time, some items have changed, and there is additional information you'll need to service Neon suspension. First, let's look at sway bar and strut damper application. The standard suspension does not use a front or rear sway bar. The sport suspension front sway bar is larger in diameter than that used on touring suspensions. Sport suspension packages include a rear sway bar as well. The strut damper assembly is different for each suspension package, so be sure to verify suspension packages when servicing struts. Wheel alignment items that have changed include the front camber adjustment. It's now possible to adjust this alignment angle using a Mopar service kit. However, make sure damaged parts aren't responsible for camber that is out of spec. When adjusting toe on Neon, keep in mind that rear toe must be set before the front. You'll recall that rear toe is adjusted by rotating the cam bolts at the rear lateral links. Inspecting Neon ball joints for wear is easy. With the weight of the vehicle on its wheels, attempt to move the grease fitting by hand. If it moves easily, the ball joint is worn and must be replaced. On the Neon, the position of the front crossmember helps to determine caster and camber angles. So be sure to mark the crossmember and frame rail on each end of the crossmember before removing it. You can use the principal locating point holes as a guide to proper crossmember position. If alignment angles are not correct, you may need to reposition the crossmember. One item we didn't mention in the Neon Highlights program was Neon's unique steering coupler. Instead of a sliding joint, the coupler uses release washers, which allow the coupler to separate. Anytime a Neon is involved in a collision that could have applied force to the coupler, it will need to be inspected carefully. The inspection points are summarized in this month's reference book, and there is a detailed inspection procedure in the service manual. While we're on the subject of steering, a new 16-to-1 steering gear will be standard equipment on the Neon Sport Coupe. We'll have more to say about Neon Coupe when we discuss body features. Our final steering item is a new power steering pump on LH models. The new Saginaw pump is smaller and quieter than the previous pump. Pump mounting brackets and hose routings are different as a result of this change. Before we move on to body electrical, let's check your knowledge of Neon suspension with a review question. The principal locating points on a Neon's frame are A, used to adjust camber, B, a guide to crossmember position, or C, a means of establishing ride height. The answer is B. The holes are a guide to proper crossmember position. To ensure proper positioning, anytime you remove the Neon's crossmember, be sure to mark the crossmember and the frame.
For 1995, a number of changes have been made to the way body electrical systems operate on LH vehicles. To prevent unintended trunk lid release, the remote keyless entry system has been changed. You must now press the trunk lid button twice to operate the remote release.
This same change has been made to minivan remote keyless entry. You need to press the liftgate button twice to release it. On 1995 LH vehicles, a cancel feature has been added to the speed control system. Pressing the cancel button deactivates the speed control, but the system retains the last set speed in memory. So when a driver presses resume, the speed control can return to the set speed. Of course, resume can also be used after a driver has tapped the brakes to deactivate the speed control. The way in which speed control is indicated has also changed for 1995. An indicator in the instrument cluster now illuminates as soon as drivers press the on switch. The automatic day-night mirror has also changed for 1995. The switch has off and auto positions, instead of the off, high, and low positions used previously. Testing the mirror is the same, except the mirror is set to auto instead of high. You'll also notice a few new features on the Ram van and wagon for 1995. A power driver seat is now available. Drivers can use a four-way switch to control back and forth and up and down movement, and two other switches to control seat angle. And the fuse block is no longer under the instrument panel. It's been relocated under the hood. With the number of Ram pickups equipped with caps and camper tops, the next item is sure to be a welcome addition to the Ram's wiring. Ram pickups are now equipped with a new connector to accommodate camper and cap dome lights, and the relocation of the center high-mounted stop lamp. A matching connector and harness to complete the hookup is available from Dodge truck dealers. We've cruised through a lot of items in this section. Now let's check your knowledge of speed control changes with a review question. Which feature of the 1995 LH speed control system allows a driver to deactivate speed control yet keep the set speed in memory? A. Reset. B. Disengage. Or C. Cancel. The answer is C. Cancel. By pressing resume, a driver can then reactivate the speed control to its last setting. In previous MasterTech programs, we introduced you to the body features of a number of new 1995 models. But there have been other body changes to the 1995 model lineup as well. The two-door version of the Neon should be arriving in dealerships this fall. To begin with, the Neon Coupe will be available in Highline trim only. A competition package will be available for the Coupe and for low-line four-door models. We've already talked about some of the items in this package, such as the dual overhead cam engine. This month's reference book lists the other features in this package. Ram Pickup is building on its success with the introduction of a club cab version this fall. The cab interior is 20 inches longer to accommodate up to 3 passengers in the rear seat. We'll have more on the club cab model and other information on Ram Pickup in an upcoming MasterTech. Two new features which will appear early next year on the 1995 Grand Cherokee should prove very popular. A child safety seat will be available on all Grand Cherokee models. It features 2 shoulder belts and accommodates children from 20 to 66 pounds. And Grand Cherokee liftgate will also be available with flip-up glass. Pressing a button in the upper part of the license plate recess releases the glass. The park position of the windshield wiper is below the glass to accommodate the flip-up window. Two other body items of note on 1995 models are the use of steel fenders instead of composite for LHS and New Yorker front fenders, and a revised sliding door on Ram van and wagon that is quieter and easier to operate. The door latches without turning the door handle, as on previous doors. Next, we're going to take a look at some changes to passive restraint systems for 1995, including a unique airbag system on Jeep Cherokee.
The biggest change in passive restraints for 1995 occurs on Jeep Cherokee. Not only does Cherokee get a driver's side airbag, it gets a new type of airbag, one that is triggered mechanically instead of electronically. In last month's MasterTech, we explored this new system in detail, including its components and operation, safety precautions that must be taken, and service procedures. If you're going to be working on the Cherokee airbag, it's a good idea to view this MasterTech. Other developments in the area of passive restraints include the addition of a driver's side airbag to Ram van and wagon. This driver's airbag is similar to that on minivan. You may recall that the minivan uses a single-point impact detection system employing an electronic sensor in the airbag control module. On Ram van, the airbag control module is located under the driver's seat. As with the minivan system, you can use the scan tool for diagnosis. The diagnostic connector is located under the instrument panel to the right of the steering column. We'll discuss some changes to passive restraints on import vehicles right after we look at a change in domestic climate control systems.
Climate control changes include new heater and AC controls on Neon. The new controls make it easier to operate the heater AC system. The blower speed indicators on the heater side of the blower switch have been changed to red to reduce confusion. The Neon's control panel allows customers to manually select recirc. As a result, you may want to remind customers that the Neon's heater AC system should not be operated in recirc in the winter. Doing so can cause the windows to fog up. The same holds true of any vehicle with a manual recirc selection. Next, we're going to cover changes to the import line for 1995. One big change in the import lineup for 1995 is the absence of Plymouth and Dodge Colt and Vista wagon models. Summit and Summit Wagon continue to be sold in Eagle dealerships, and Stealth continues to be sold by Dodge dealerships. All front-wheel drive Summits and Summit wagons for the California market now meet the stricter standard for hydrocarbon emissions. The standard calls for a limit of 0.125 grams of hydrocarbon per mile. The all-wheel drive Summit wagon continues to meet the 0.25 gram hydrocarbon standard. All California Summits and Summit wagons have now adopted OBD2. You'll recall from previous MasterTechs that OBD2 is the new onboard diagnostic system that allows closer monitoring of emission-related systems. The switch to OBD2 on California Summit and Summit Wagon has resulted in such changes as the addition of a rear oxygen sensor to monitor catalyst efficiency. Diagnostics have also changed, and there are new designations for diagnostic trouble codes, as well as some new items for codes. You can use the DRB3 to access these codes, but not the MDS. The May 1994 MasterTech contains a chart of the scan tool cables required for 1994 and 1995 import and Diamond Star vehicles. Speaking of the DRB3, you may experience some delay accessing engine diagnostics on some 1994 and 1995 MMC vehicles. This is normal and is due to a different initialization sequence used in the engine controllers in these vehicles. As a result, it takes about 25 seconds for the DRB3 to display a message asking you to make sure the key is on and press enter. After pressing enter, you need to wait about 55 more seconds for the scan tool to establish communication. A list of the vehicles this delay occurs on is in this month's reference book. Another change made to California vehicles is a new evaporative emission system on Summit wagons with a 2.4-liter engine. The new system includes 2 purge solenoid valves instead of the one used previously, a larger charcoal canister, and a new fuel pump, which can operate at 3 speeds to reduce excess fuel returning to the tank. To reduce evaporation, fuel line routings and materials are also different, and a new fuel filler neck prevents canister flooding as a result of overfueling. The filler neck does this by closing the canister air purge line during fueling. Not all of the changes to Summit and Summit Wagon involve the engine and fuel systems on California vehicles. For 1995, both models receive a passenger side airbag. The system is similar to that used on the 1995 Talon. 2 impact sensors are located in the front corners of the vehicle. A safing sensor is located in the SRS diagnostic module. The SRS diagnostic module is located under the rear of the center console. For further information on this and other MMC airbag systems, be sure to see the May 1994 MTSE program on MMC airbags. Summits with a 1.5-liter engine have also undergone some brake changes for 1995. Brake drum diameter has been increased from 7 to 8 inches. The backing plate is also thicker to reduce flex and increase shoe contact. Stealth is largely carryover for 1995. However, a few new features are worth noting. The all-wheel drive turbo model now features 245/40 R18 tires on chrome wheels. This model also includes firmer suspension bushings for improved handling. Automatic temperature control, electronically controlled suspension, dual-note exhaust system, and rear-wheel steering are no longer available on this model. Now let's try a review question to check your knowledge of import emission control systems. For 1995, a new evaporative control system with 2 purge solenoids is used on A, all California Summit wagons with 2.4-liter engines, B, all Summit wagons with 2.4-liter engines, or C, all California Summit wagons. The answer is A, all California Summit wagons with 2.4-liter engines. In addition to 2 purge solenoids, the system uses a 3-speed fuel pump and a new filler neck.
That's it for this month's program. We hope that this look at technical highlights helps you keep track of the many changes to the 1995 model lineup. Upcoming MasterTechs include releases on sound systems and Ram Club Cab. So be sure to watch these for additional information. We'll see you next month.